Population growth and human activities, effect on the environment. In a remote village in Kenya, members of two ethnic communities are on the verge of war. This war is not at all politically motivated, but the reason is that one community, which is generally made up of pastoralists, has invaded the farms of the other tribe and used their wheat fields for pasture. The pastoralists claim that there is no more grass on their fields to graze their livestock, and they cannot just sit and see them die of hunger. The rivers where they graze their animals are drying up, and an urgent solution must be found. This occurrence has been caused by the population increase in livestock and people in that area. The global human population rate peaked in the early 60s, and since that time, the number of human beings on Earth, who share necessary resources such as food and water, went up and has increased by over 75%. By this year, it is estimated that the population of the Earth is approximately 8 billion people. High human population growth will affect the ecosystem. This essay seeks to examine ecology in terms of population growth and human activities on the environment. The greatest agent of population growth is reproduction. This means that the population increases when the number of births is more than those of deaths. A small population that is introduced into an environment that has resources in abundance grows exponentially. However, as the population continues increasing, it reaches the extreme limits of the resources, and its number starts moving down or just remains at a constant. This may happen because of competition between or amongst the species, or they may encounter a catastrophic event like disease or drought. Populations that experience exponential growth cycles will produce many young ones or seeds. They have less food reserves, live for a short time, disperse rapidly, and they are also in a position to colonize environments that are harsh and disturbed. There are those that grow exponentially at first and then slow down in number as the population continues increasing. However, they maintain an equilibrium between their number and the resources available. The major factors that influence the growth of the population include several population interactions that bind the community closer. They are competition between different species and also within individuals. Predation includes adaptation and predation. Competition is manifest especially in situations where there are many organisms but the resources are scarce. For the majority of people and animals, they coexist in sharing resources that allow them to survive to the adult age and reproduce. However, for others, it is only the dominant species that access the scarce resources, meaning that the others may get themselves lacking the necessities, thus losing vigor or dying. For animals, there is an organized structure. Resources are allocated to the dominant species, excluding those that are subdominant. The dominant species may occupy territories that they defend and push the subdominant ones to poorer areas. Competition is what brings out different species, dividing resources in a community. On the other hand, predation as part of the interaction is where a living plant or animal consumes another. This is done to move nutrients and energy into the ecosystem as well as remove those that are unfit. Parasitism is the condition where organisms live together, but it is only one benefits by drawing nourishment from the other. The parasite gains while the host loses. Parasitism and predation control and lower the population of some organisms. Environmentalists have unanimously agreed that the majority of the problems that are related to the environment, such as climate change, loss of some species, and the overuse of natural resources, are caused or intensified by the growth in the human population. Robert Engelman, who works for Population Action International, once stated, "Trends such as the loss of half of the planet's forests, the depletion of most of its major fisheries, and the alteration of its atmosphere and climate are closely related to the fact that human population expanded from mere millions in prehistoric times to over 6 billion today." The first environmental impact caused by population growth is the loss of forests. Since the year 1950, over 80% of the world's rainforests have already disappeared. This means that some of the animal and plant species that had their homes in these forests were lost. The loss of forests has also been a major cause of global warming. This is due to the increase in greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere. Trees are absolutely essential in the consumption and storage of carbon dioxide, which is one of these gases. Population growth also leads to the presence of more mouths that need to be fed, more clothes to be worn, more houses to be built, and more factories to be constructed. This would mean that resources would be drained at a higher rate. For example, the American population consumes about 25% of all the world's resources, though they represent only 4% of the global population. Animals are being eaten at a high rate, and fish are being harvested until their numbers are reduced by the growing population. The other effect of the population on the environment is increased air, water, and land pollution as more plant and household waste are released into the environment. This has caused the death of so many organisms in the ecosystem. However, human beings manage the environment in a way that is comfortable to them and largely ignore the other species. Though sometimes the condition of the other species, including their status and needs, is considered. Not enough information has been found on how the activities of man, which are for the protection of species and their habitats, influence the functioning dynamics of the populations and the ecosystems.